Hey everyone, welcome to the Life's Worth Living podcast. I'm your host, John Gossett. Got my co-host, the beautiful Miss Tracy Gossett, with me today, and we're coming to you live from GTM Builders Model Home in Overlake. They're the sponsor of this podcast, and we'd like to give them a big shout out. So if you're thinking about building a home, check out gtmbuilders.com or visit one of their 4 model homes here in the Valley. Tonight's episode is brought to you by A. Warner Homes Real Estate. If you're thinking about buying or selling, interest rates are extremely low right now. Give A. Warner Homes Real Estate a call at 801-867-5078. And today, the podcast is also brought to you by Comfort Inn & Suites in Lake Point. If you're thinking about coming out to the Tooele Valley to check out what we've got out here, or you've got family coming to town, check out Comfort Inn & Suites or give them a call at 801-250-3600. So I'm really excited today. We've got a special guest that's driven out here from Salt Lake Valley, and his name is Coz Green. Thanks for coming out, Coz.
Good to be here, John. I'm impressed. He did all that sponsorship and introduction information without a teleprompter or anything.
I don't know.
You're still young.
Right.
Well, that's true. Don't verify those phone numbers. He wasn't looking at anything, so I'm impressed. I don't even remember my own phone number. It's just speed dial, right? I don't know your phone number.
I don't
It's just
either.
John Gossett in the phone.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know my family's phone number. Isn't that weird? Because when you were a kid, you always remembered phone numbers.
Sure.
I
And
could
who can
rattle
forget
them off.
867-5309 Jenny?
That's right.
We knew her number.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, so for those of you that didn't see, we did a live broadcast from Rock Canyon Studios.
Was that
in Provo.
fun?
That was the most fun I've ever had. It was
Well,
so cool
other
because-
than when you got married.
Yeah, exactly. That was fun. But you know, it's interesting to see how live broadcasts go down because I've never been part of one, and it was a lot of fun. There's a lot involved in it. So
There is a lot that goes into making a live broadcast.
Yeah.
We definitely
look
couldn't have done it
seamless.
without you.
Well, you
So
know,
you're
it was.
so
I'm
gracious.
so glad that John Absey reached out and said, you know, you need to get involved with Life's Worth Living Foundation because I look now at that broadcast, and if you haven't watched the broadcast, it's right here on the YouTube channel for Life's Worth Living Foundation. Watch the entire show. In fact, I put it as my podcast this week, as well as Nathan Osmond did as well. We took the audio of the entire night, and it makes a great audio show, if you will. So we'll share that in a lot of different ways, and hopefully we can really increase the reach of the program.
yeah, it was amazing, and we've had so many positive comments come in since.
And money.
And money is still
I mean, because the
yeah.
money's the key. We need to help fund this great organization and cause because a lot of nonprofits are struggling with COVID. In fact, according to the industry experts, 2/3 of all nonprofits are going to go away because of COVID.
Yeah.
And we did not want to see that happen with Life's Worth
Well, and
Living Foundation.
that's exactly why we had to think outside the box and say, okay, we've missed our walk to Windover. We've missed our Christmas festival, our golf tournament. All of those things this year we weren't able to pull off. And so when you and I got together and said, hey, let's try to do this, you know, when you're not in the nonprofit sector, if you're not working in that, I don't think people realize it. It takes so much money to keep it going, to run it, to, you know, fund the things that we do. Last Sunday, when we were here at the model home recording the podcast last week, we received word that there was a suicide in Tooele, and we needed the funds to be able to help out with funeral expenses, you know. And so, you know, people don't realize that COVID's really kind of put a monkey wrench in what we do.
Well, it's just changed everything, hasn't it?
It has.
The needs of the community are different because of COVID.
Yeah.
The way you raise money is different because of COVID, or the things you can and can't do because of COVID. So it really has changed the world. We've just got to think differently. And if you're not thinking virtually, then you're missing the boat because there's some things that you can do to make live broadcasts actually work.
Yeah.
And I think if you go back and watch the video, I mean, you cannot tell that just wasn't a TV show.
No.
And that was the key.
It was. It was like just watching anything on TV. It was great. And, you know, if...
Only the best for you, John.
Exactly.
Well, actually, we did it for Tracy. You were
Tracy.
just, dragging you along, John.
Hey, that's how I get everything is through Tracy. So, no, if there's nonprofits out there right now, you have got to make a connection with Coz because what you do is amazing. And when we first... So I'm going to be completely honest with you. When we first thought about doing this, I was like, oh, I can do that. I can figure that out. We could do that. I had no idea the sheer amount of work that would go into a live broadcast.
Like what kinds of things do you mean? I'm just curious.
Well, you did the intro, you did the exit, the end of it. We show up and we do this pre-meeting, and you're telling the cameras which camera's going to go, what they're going to focus on, how they're going to fade in, fade out. You knew the times down to the minute. You knew exactly what was involved in it. You're talking to the sound guys, the video people, talking to the MCs and letting them know this is what I want you to kind of focus on in each clip. You had the teleprompter ready. I mean, there was a lot of moving components to it, and for that I was blown away.
Well, that's what makes the difference in that final product. So
Yeah,
if you're going to do a virtual gala in 2021, get a hold of John. We'll get connected. We'll help.
Yeah, you blew me away.
Well, it was
so
fun.
much,
It was fun.
so much above and beyond what I had ever anticipated.
Well, I promised you that it wasn't going to be,
He did.
half rate.
Yeah, I was grateful for it.
Yeah, only the best for you and Tracy.
Well, and I kind of want to get into your story and talk a little bit about you. Because, when we went to dinner down at American Fork, we had kind of a discussion, kind of shared a little bit. We got to know each other pretty good. But tell us how your life started out, and kind of, you did some amazing things. You've done amazing things your entire life, but it started out pretty young for you.
Yeah, so I started as a professional entertainer when I was 13. So I was one of those kids that couldn't lead silent prayer in a phone booth. But, when you rely on God or the Spirit to help you, then he picks up where you leave off. And so I just enjoyed an amazing childhood as an entertainer. Got to travel all over the country when I wasn't even old enough to drive. And then later in life was able to travel around the world and do shows all over the world on some huge stages. And there's just so many wonderful people experiences.
So did that
as
come
an
from your
entertainer.
parents?
No, have you ever seen the movie Field of Dreams?
Yes.
I've had a few Field of Dreams experiences in my life. Three distinct times in my life where I heard a voice. So whether it was schizophrenia or it was the Spirit, but it was very specific what I was supposed to do in my life. Now, it's come a couple of other times, but 3 distinct times where I followed and did what it told me to do. Things that I would have never just, come up with on my own. I mean, who's going to tell you to be a professional clown? Who's going to tell you to get into the world of speaking, training, and coaching? And then who's going to tell you to don the big elf suit 22 years ago and change lives as Santa Claus, which is now evolved to where it's actually developed a brand, to Santa Coz. So it's kind of cool what's happened in my life. But you can't have those highs without also having lows. And I think that's what people miss out on. They're like, you have so many wonderful experiences, you have so many highs in life, but then you go home and you have to experience the low. I mean, my mentor and hero when I was a kid was Robin Williams. Who else got higher than Robin Williams? And when he passed away, I was driving down E470 in Denver. I just gotten off an airplane, was headed to speak down in south end of the Denver area. And as I was getting on the freeway, I turned on talk radio, and that hour's headline was the broadcast, the news story that Robin Williams had passed away. And I pulled over because I just couldn't drive, and I sobbed. And I thought, here's a man who brought more love and light and laughter to the world, and he died all alone, afraid, and hopeless. And so I had experienced that a few years previous, and so I said at that time, I was going to tell my kids what happened, and then I was going to come out and talk about my attempted suicide and not hide it anymore.
Yeah.
And try to help other people. So when John Absey reached out and said, Life's Worth Living Foundation, I knew what you guys were doing, I said, I'm on board, just because every life is precious. And I don't want to see anyone live, in fear of life. But then also, I don't want anybody to go through what I did of being hopeless, alone, and afraid. So if I can just help one person not have the feelings that I had in that summer of 2009, then that's what my life's all about now. It really is.
Did you have something in your life that went wrong that made you, or was it just depression, or what? What made you feel so hopeless that you wanted to take your life at that point?
There was a perfect storm there was some things happening in my life financially and in my marriage and in the businesses we were involved in. There was just so many things going on. And so I reached out to a doctor because, we go to doctors for help, right? And so I went to a doctor, and the first doctor, we did a little 20-question questionnaire, that took a whopping 3 seconds. She said, here's a pen and a paper. Answer these 20 questions. So I did it really quick. She leaves the room, comes back with this brown bag. And she says, there's 4 samples of 4 different medications. I want you to take each one of these medications for a week. And then at the end of the month, come back and tell me which one made you feel better. And that's what we'll put you on.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, thank you very much. No. So then I got a referral, went to another doctor, and he spent more time with me, really connected with this guy, but he put me on a cocktail of antidepressant drugs. And for the very first time, I was starting to experience anxiety attacks. But then with this cocktail of medications they put me on, it only got worse. And he even said, if things aren't feeling right, come back and see me. Well, I thought I was stronger than that. And I thought, well, it's just me. It's not the medications. So I didn't attempt suicide just once, but 3 times on the same day. So I can go into if you want, but basically I'll just sum it up by saying the train didn't kill me, because I had this thing planned out. And my office was in Linden. And if you know where the Linden Harley-Davidson dealership is, so they're in Vineyard. If you go down that road, you cross some railroad tracks where old Geneva Steel was. Well, my office was just over there in those commercial buildings up above Home Depot there. So I would hear trains all day long. And I just had enough. In fact, I was prone position under my desk, and I got up. I mean, I turned out the lights, the whole thing, and I'd had enough. I just couldn't do it. And I didn't realize what effect the medications were actually having on me. And so I got up. I still remember I got up and I called the suicide hotline. And I'm sure the young man was just doing the best he could, but I was like, quit following a script. I just need to talk to someone. And it just felt like he was following the script. So I hung up on him, got in my car, crossed those railroad tracks, turned around and came back. So I was just right there by the tracks. And again, 10, 15 trains would go by each day. And I waited, no trains. And the air conditioning in my car had just gone out a couple of days before that. So here it is. It's the end of June. It's 100 and whatever degrees outside. And I have no air. So I'm just rolling down the windows. And I'm getting more furious because there's no trains. Because the plan was, as soon as the train got quick enough, I'd just pull my car over the tracks, and that would be it. So I was furious. So I drove right to Walmart and went and got a dryer hose and duct tape. And I went to my house and I waited until my wife was asleep. And I had a stockpile of sleeping pills. And so I sneaked those out into the garage too. And after she was in bed, I went to the garage. We had a detached garage from our home in Lehigh. And I sealed up that car. I mean, I did a job on that thing. And took the dryer hose out of the exhaust into the back window, taped it up, made sure where I thought air could come in or out was sealed up with the duct tape. And so I got in the car and choked down that box of chalk, it felt like, all those sleeping pills. And the plan was I just needed enough sleeping pills to put me out so that the asphyxiation would seal the deal. So took all the pills, turned off the dome light, turned the key, and faded into darkness. And jumped. And knew what I was doing, fully conscious of what I was doing. And some people will say, well, you're not in your right mind. And no, you're not in your right mind. And people also say, well, that's very selfish, because what about your kids? Well, my kids were with their mom for the first half of the summer, so they were going to be okay. And she's a great lady and was going to take great care of them. She's a great mom. And frankly, it wasn't that I wasn't thinking about them, but I was thinking about them different, that, the world's better off without me. So in a way, I'm doing the world a favor. It's not that I'm being selfish by taking myself out. I'm doing the world a favor by not being here. Well, the asphyxiation didn't kill me. I didn't know what was going on, but I woke up a couple days later in the ICU at the American Fork Hospital. And talk about now feelings of guilt and regret. I'm like, what? I couldn't even do this right. what in the world is going on? How did I screw that up? I did everything right. And when I had enough understanding of where I was and what was going on, what did and didn't happen, I asked somebody what day it was, and they said it was June 23rd. And then it hit me, oh my goodness, tomorrow's my son's birthday. And he was turning 11, and I would have never missed his birthday. And my wife at the time, not the kid's mother, but my second wife, she just looked at me. She said, obviously you didn't think about that. You weren't thinking about his birthday, or you wouldn't have done what you did. I was like, oh, touche. You got me there. You know, I was like, thanks. That's why I'm in this situation. You're good at those zingers. So I called my son, and I said, son, I'm not going to be there tomorrow for your birthday. And he was just so sweet. He's such a great young man now, Ben, but at 11, he was just so sweet. And he said, that's okay, Dad. We'll get together when you get out of the hospital. You just take care of you. And I didn't explain anything that was going on. I just said I couldn't be there. I was in the hospital, and he was so sweet about it. And so they stabilized me, and I still remember the doctor coming in and saying, oh, we're going to release you. We got you stabilized. And I thought, oh, good. Then I can maybe pick up Ben tomorrow for his birthday. And you go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Before you get too excited, you didn't admit yourself here. The fire department or the ambulance and the police brought you here. So you weren't checked in on your own free will. You're not leaving here. So we're transferring you to Utah Valley Psych Ward. So, we've got an escort here. They're going to escort you to an ambulance, and with armed security, and we're going to take you there. So I spent 9 days in the psych ward at Utah Valley Regional. And when I first got there, talk about the depths of despair. But one of my best and favorite movies is Patch Adams.
Oh, yeah.
So I had my own, and being a clown, there's that side of you when you can click that in. Seeing laughter and smile in other people's face is the best medicine in the world. So I turned that on, and, those 9 days were actually miraculous in terms of connecting with the other patients. I remember my first group, I'm sitting there because you had group twice a day and, therapy sessions and all that. When you go in, they take away your shoelaces. Yeah. I mean, from not personal experience, but what they tell you. There's just no way you can hurt yourself, and they have to unlock the bathroom for you, and mother, may I do this? And, it was just very humbling. But as I sat there in that first group, I'm meeting these people, and it was kind of like the village people, but yet my neighborhood, there was a professional, there was a mom, there was a young kid. Just a potpourri of the community, and they're all telling their stories, and I'm like, my life's not as bad as that person or that person. What am I doing here? I don't belong here.
Puts it in perspective.
But then I realized what had happened, and so much of that was the medications that the doctor even said to me, and he knew the answer. But he said, who in the world prescribed this for you? And he was obviously in the chart, and I said, well, my doctor. And he goes, you should have never been on this cocktail stuff. This is the worst possible thing you could have been on. I'm surprised you didn't go jump off a bridge or an overpass 3 weeks ago. This was the worst possible cocktail of medications you could have taken. So once we got off that, and I was working through things, like I said, I was there 9 days, and I remember I was there last day or two. I was there. Michael Jackson and Farrah Fawcett passed away. There was so many things going on in the outside world. And so I get out on a Saturday, and we're across the street, kitty corner from the hospital. We're at the Walgreens filling the right prescription this time. And I get a call on my phone that my mother had fallen. She had one of those life alerts. Yeah. Your mother's fallen and she can't get up. So we're sending the ambulance to get her. And my wife at the time, she had a relative that was a niece that was being married. So we drove right from there to Albuquerque. So I never saw my mom alive again. So we went down there, came back. I guess I saw her alive, but she was in a coma. And so I went to work the next Monday. Now I had not gone to work for a couple of weeks, and I worked for a great company that was just so understanding. And I didn't tell them what was going on because I didn't say, hey, I'm in the psych ward. I just called my boss and said, I'm in the hospital. And he said, hey, we'll come see you. I said, no, I can't take visitors right now. And, I had to learn how to lie, or at least not share all the information. And so I got out of the hospital on a Saturday. Friday night, yeah, Saturday, we drove to New Mexico, came back that weekend. Anyway, so now it's Monday morning. I go to work, muddled through the day. Tuesday morning, I'm in Salt Lake City, and I'm at a sales meeting. And we shared offices with the regional vice president of the company. And so following our sales meeting, I saw him in the hall, and he said, hey, come to my office. And so I went to his office, and he had been the president of KSL, former BYU quarterback, just great guy. But I don't think many people saw this other side of him that happened, because he was, this buttoned up executive and, pretty boy quarterback from BYU. You just, are these people real? And so he called me, and he kind of gave me that home teacher line, like, hey, heard you had an issue, you were in the hospital. What can we do for you? And I was like, it's my heart. Like I say, I learned to lie. I said, it's my heart. I was in the hospital for a little over a week, but I'm okay. And he goes, okay, well, if there's anything we can do for you, let me know. And I got up and just kind of dismissed it and said, hey, thanks, have a nice day. Drove back to Linden, went to work. And the next morning, I'm getting off the freeway there in Linden, and my boss calls me, and he says, hey, Steve's going to be here to meet you at the office. So how far out are you? And I said, I'm just getting off the freeway. So I disconnected on the phone. I said, I'm fired. I'm done. I mean, that's the first thought I had is, why is the big guy coming to my office? He's never been there before. And so I got to the office, booted up the computer, and watched him walk in. And he went into Deke's office, and they're talking for a few minutes behind the glass. Then Steve, motions for me to come in. And I went in there, and we sat down, and he said, Coz, I was getting ready for work this morning, and just felt prompted that I'm supposed to be here. So I called Debbie, canceled all my meetings. Why am I here? Oh, you see, Steve, it was my heart. And I go into this story, and he just looks right through me. He says, why am I here? And if ever the heavens have opened up and I felt the love of God, it was in that moment. And so I broke down, and I told him the whole story. And he cried, and I cried, and we just had the most amazing moment. And he said, just go home. The business will take care of itself. We got you covered. Just go home. Take care of you. Take care of your family. Call me tomorrow, and we'll have a plan for you. And so I left there, went home, took a nap, because I had an appointment that afternoon for 3:00, because as part of your release of the hospital from a psych ward, you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
So they're like, you have to go to a psychologist every single day until he says you're good. So I had my appointment scheduled for 3:00, and I'm sitting there in the appointment, and we're going through things. And at about 3:50, my phone vibrates, and I had the most overwhelming feeling, your mother just died. So we conclude the appointment. I go to the stairwell and check voicemail, and sure enough, my mom passed away. So the next morning, I just called my boss, and I said, I need to plan a funeral and bury my mom. So if I can have a couple days, to sort this all out. And they were so great. They were just so kind and loving. You just don't think companies treat people that way. But I was so blessed to work for, yes, an organization, but people who got it and put people first.
It is amazing.
And so they actually gave me a couple months to put my life together. And every week, Steve would call me, and he'd say, what are you doing on Wednesday? And I'd say, well, I'm just, working on me. And he'd say, no, I want you to meet me at Neater's on Timpanogos Highway. We're getting a lemonade together, or we're getting together for a lemonade. And we'd just visit, and he'd just listen, and he just was there to help me. And then I came back to work, and he just overloaded me with great opportunities. And then I got a national gig after that. And so then for 9 years was on the road and just met thousands of people every day as somebody who just made a difference in the lives of people in that organization. And years later, he just said, now I know why you were in this company, because you just carried a light around the country. And that's why you were here in this organization. And so it was just the most amazing experience. And I just left there last fall after 13 years. And so we buried my mom, and fast forward a little bit. So we buried my mom. Now my kids are with me the second half of the summer, because you're going to be like, but I thought you taped up your car and you should have been asphyxiated and died. Well, when I got out of the hospital, I went to the garage, and there it was all taped up. That was a haunting feeling.
Oh, I bet.
To walk in there and think, that's where it all happened. So I took all the tape off, threw it away, threw the dryer hose away. And then my daughter and son came after the funeral, and she was learning to drive. I wasn't going to tell her what happened in that car, but it would have been a great car for her to learn how to drive. She just got her learners. So I get in the car to try to start it, and I turned it on, and all the lights came on, but it wouldn't even make a noise. So I put it in neutral. Megan gets behind the wheel. Ben and I push it out of the garage. And on the floor of the garage is this big pool of oil with all these metal shards. And I'm like, what the heck? I don't know anything about cars. I can fix a computer, but not a car. I mean, I know you put gas in it from time to time and change the oil once a year. But other than that, so we take it over to a mechanic. He puts it on the lift. And he takes his light and he says, Coz, come over here. And he shines the light underneath the engine. And he said, what was going on when your car died? And I said, I wasn't going to tell him that I was, I tried to off myself. I said, I was idling in the garage. And he goes, that's the craziest thing. Because look right here. This is where the piston came through the side of the engine and killed your engine.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Then it hit me. That's why I didn't die. Yeah. The engine threw a rod and killed the engine. Because I was that close. Was I 30 seconds? Was I 1 minute away from being asphyxiated? I don't know. All I know is then because of all the sleeping pills, I was in that car for a while until I was discovered. But I realized how close I'd come to die. But I believe that was divine intervention, that car threw a rod and I didn't die.
100%. That is wild.
And so, just the most overwhelming feeling to realize I was that close. And you hear all those stories about how right when it happens, you regret you didn't want to do it, like the people who jump off the Golden Gate Bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge, and as on their way their way down, they regret it. Well, I didn't because I was still on those meds, but when I discovered what I had tried to do in a better frame of mind, I was so glad that I didn't pass away, because there was my beautiful 11-year-old son and 15-year-old daughter who were just my pride and joy, and how close I came. And for years, I kept that a secret because I was embarrassed to tell anybody. But like I say, when Robin Williams passed away, I said, I'm going to tell my story. So I told my story on my podcast and started writing and being more vocal about it. And I was able to tell that story around the world as I traveled for that division of NBC Universal, and just affected thousands of lives every week.
Did you find healing?
Oh, tremendous healing.
Being able to voice your story.
Yeah.
I think when people try to keep it all held up and keep that to themselves and isolate because they're embarrassed and don't want to let anybody in, it just drags that process of healing.
Well, you just feel like it's just a unique story. No one else is going through what I am, and no one would understand. But everybody has a similar story. Of the hopelessness. You would never do that if you had hope. No. And so that's why I got on that journey of hope, to just try to help people find more hope. And the more and more I've been visible about it, that law of attraction, whether you believe in that or not, whether it's just, the vibration or the frequency you're at, you attract people like you into your life, whether it was through John Absey or, Nathan Osmond with this whole event. One thing leads to another. And you just realize we're all in this together to help each other. Yeah. And that we do all have a light. Some of us have a 20-watt bulb, and others have a spotlight for a grand opening like Tracy, the big bright light. But we have to just let our lights shine. And whatever your story is, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. I had a boss once who said I could never be vulnerable because, I guess you're not a manly man if you're vulnerable, but to me, it takes great courage to be vulnerable.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot.
Well, I think it's great that your company was so understanding.
Oh,
I wish there
what
was
a blessing.
I wish there was more businesses that were like that would help their employees and see their employees as human beings and not just...
Oh, they were so supportive, to be there for the funeral. And I didn't understand at the time, because once I got in my national role, I then saw people all over the country that they were helping the same way. And at first I thought I was pretty special because of what Steve had arranged, to help me, to just still get paid and just be on medical leave for those couple months. But it was a great company. It's changed a lot since then. It's not the company it used to be, because, now it's just about dollars, not people. And that's why I left. But the people just made it special, and people who cared. I was able to see a side of Steve that I don't think very few people would have seen.
Yeah, he saw you and he wanted to help you.
In that setting. Well, like I say, behind closed doors, when the heavens opened up and he was just real and we wept together, I'd never seen that man before. And I've not really ever seen him since that way.
But he was there when you needed it.
And so that's what I learned from this, John and Tracy, is I may not have the certifications or training like you help people get at Life's Worth Living Foundation, but I think 90% of it is just showing up for people. It is. And how many people get afraid if somebody said, I attempted suicide? They run and hide, don't know what to do. And that's what I found. People scattered in my life. The time I actually needed people, they scattered because no one knew what to say or do. And it was Steve, of all people, who stepped into my life and was the guy who got me through it. And then once I got through it, then, he had played that part in my life. We're still good friends. But I think you just have to be willing to be there and be an ear and a shoulder. I had an experience last night as Santa. I was in a home, and I've been in this home, off and on for this young lady is 16 years old now, and she was just tiny when I first started going there. And she came up as the last person, and she started crying. And her mom looked at me like, what is, because it was quite a party, and all little kids are having a good time, but she just broke down and started crying. And so we had a moment, and the Spirit is so strong in those moments, because it's not about Coz Green, it's just the big guy. So, and they have that belief, right? They don't know who you are. And so after I was leaving, she met me at the door with her mom, and she just held me so tight and was just crying. And I looked at her mom like, what's going on? So don't tell anybody, it wasn't COVID compliant. We weren't 6 feet away. The embrace was pretty tight, and she just wouldn't let me go. And so I left, and after the end of my next show, I just texted and I said, that was a touching moment. Thanks for letting me be a part of that. And she said, I don't know what you said or did to her, but she's been having some, just issues of being disrespectful. And, she's a 16-year-old teenager and probably pretty entitled. And something happened while you were here. And she just, after you left, told me how grateful she is for our family. And she just had a moment. And I think you saw the post that I did just a couple days before that. I was in that home in Hoytsville, where they had asked, I'd been with that family for 22 years. And they said, hey, we're adopting these 3 children. It's a sister and 2 little boys that had been with them for like 6 years. They'd fostered 35 kids over the years. And so they said, will you come, as Santa, will you come tell the children that they're going to be adopted today? So I went in, and the ploy was they were getting family pictures. So the whole family's there. They're all dressed up. And Murray, the elf, he had 11 pieces of this puzzle all over the house. So they went and found the 11 pieces, and we brought them. We put them on the coffee table. And when they put the puzzle together, it said, you're going to be adopted today.
That is cool.
That is
and be
cool.
a forever family. And Monica, I think she's 13 or 14, just started crying. Because for 6 years, all she's wanted for Christmas was to be adopted. And in that moment, I knew it wasn't Jingle Bells. I knew it wasn't something else. We were just right there all together. This family of 8 or 9 plus mom and dad and the new little baby that was like not even a year old that they're fostering. And we sang, families can be together forever.
That's got to be cool.
And we were all just crying. And it was just such a sweet experience. And I just realized that's why you're here. Is because you can carry a spirit. You're willing to do things other people aren't willing to do, or go, as an entertainer or just an advocate, and do and say things that a lot of people are afraid to. But I tell you, after you after you're a clown all over the world, you're really not afraid about what anybody thinks. So I just find that as an ambassador of light, you just got to be willing to do what the Spirit tells you, and don't question it, and just do it, and do it now.
And I always say, if you get the prompting, you're either going to look nuts or like a genius that you followed that prompting. You know what I mean? Because sometimes those promptings are something just totally out of the box, and you're going, am I just thinking this, or where's this coming from?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Don't stop and think.
Nope.
Just have courage. Do what you're being told to do in that moment, because if you flinch, sometimes the opportunities elude you.
Yep.
Right? So with great courage, you just embrace it. Don't care what anybody else thinks. I mean, you do. You do kind of still worry, but you do it anyway. And it has brought some of the most miraculous, most amazing experiences of my life.
That's amazing.
And so I just love people and realize that it's not about me. It's about thee. Mm-hmm. And I'm just an ambassador to try to make a difference. And so I wake up every morning and I just think there's one person that I'm supposed to touch today. It's kind of like School of Rock. One person in a meaningful way to touch. Not like that. But to touch a life 6 feet away and make a difference. And so that's my mission. So whether it's using entertainment abilities, my background in TV, production, podcasting, virtual events, whatever, how do I just help people?
And I think everyone should think that. Wake up every morning, think, whose life can I touch today?
That's what makes me nuts.
No, but what would the world be if we all were thinking about each other and helping each other and lifting each other up? What a world it would be.
Well, it was like Chad Hymas said in The Night of Hope. He said, that's our drug of choice. And so I don't know what happened in our lives because we're similar, but many of us wake up and we do think about others and trying to make the world a better place. And I'm with you on that, Tracy. What if just more of us did that?
Yeah.
My friend Brian Tracy said something to me years ago that's just always been a theme in my mind. He said back in 1989 when we started working together, when I started speaking, my other Field of Dreams moment, when I started speaking around the country to corporations and public audiences, but he just said, what kind of country would America be if everyone in it were just like me? And I've taken that seriously, that, we look to Washington, D.C. to solve all of our social ills, but really, what kind of state would Utah be if everyone in it were just like me? What kind of county would Tooele County be if everyone in it were just like me? What kind of neighborhood would this neighborhood be if everyone in it were just like me? And if we all did that, the country would take care of itself.
Very true.
But we look at Congress or the White House and say, fix our problems. It's not going to happen. We have to do it one person at a time in our own little circle of the world. And if we do that, we can change the world.
We can. And we have to be not self-centered. We have to be looking at other people. And there's so many people out there that's self-centered and just walk by people. I didn't even think about it till we did this, got educated in Safe Talk. And one of the trainings that we take, it shows you all these different...
Is that's not in front of... Okay, we're good. I want to make sure that mic wasn't in front of your face.
That you realize how many people just walk by people and they don't see it. So they show you these people that are in crisis and people that just walk by them and they're not listening to what they're saying because the clues are all there, but the people are not listening. And so I've been trying to, since we've been doing this, be more aware of people out in my surroundings, because you don't know how many people are in your surroundings that maybe would take their life that day, and you're not, and you've walked right by them and you haven't noticed them and they just want to be noticed.
That's the opportunity.
And it can just be a smile.
Yeah.
It can be a hello. You never know. I was returning a rental car in Oakland. How are we doing for time? You're looking at the microwave. We good? We have a very sophisticated monitoring system here,
Yeah,
right?
no,
So I took my glasses off. So you keep an eye on the microwave clock there, John.
I'll keep watching the mic.
But I was when I traveled for all those years, I was on the road like 47 weeks out of the year. I leave early on Mondays, wouldn't come home till Friday or Saturday. And I was returning a rental car in Oakland. I would work in San Francisco, but it just made more sense flying to Oakland, get a car there, and not have to fight San Francisco. But I got back to the Oakland side of the bay a little early, and so I'm at the gas station. I filled up, and I had a little time before I had to get back to the rental car place, and there was a knock on the window of the car. And there was this gentleman, and, he basically asked me for money. And I'm that guy who gives him money because I'm like, that's not on me to decide.
Yeah.
Hey, if this is a scam and he's going to go buy booze or drugs or something, that's between him and God,
Yep.
not me, because I can't judge that. And so I just had this feeling, and I had the time that I said, no, how about you hungry? He goes, I'm starving. And I said, okay, across the street here, look, there's a strip mall with 5 or 6 restaurants, plus a couple out parcels. Let's go eat. I had time. And he goes, really? I said, let's go get a meal. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon or whatever on a Friday, maybe 5. And I said, so pick one and I'll drive around and meet you over there. You go pick one. So we went in and we sat down and we start talking. And he informs me he had just gotten out of Folsom Prison earlier that day and had hitchhiked down there because he was from that area. So I'm sitting across having lunch with this guy who just gotten out of prison, and he would look pretty rough. And we had one of the most incredible moments, and I made a lifelong friend.
That's amazing.
And I think, where was he at? Maybe he was going to, I don't know, I'm not going to judge. Was he going to rob the gas station? Was he going to do something? I mean, I don't know. But what I'm saying, in that moment, we ended up spending about an hour and a half together before I needed to go take the car back and get on my flight back to Salt Lake City for an early Friday that week. But I have had, and I'm not saying this for myself, I'm not looking for any accolades, but I'm saying I have had literally thousands of experiences like that over the last 11 years since my suicide attempt, with people because I was on the road and I didn't want to just do a triple dipper and one more pay-per-view at the hotel that night. I would just go find soup kitchens, or I would just drive around, look for cars that were broken down on the side of the road, whether it was Philly or Seattle or Boston. I would just explore the city to find more opportunities in the city. And I had some of the most amazing people experiences. I'm not suggesting everyone do that. People think that's crazy, you're going to get killed. But I used to think, what a horrible way to go. That at your funeral they say he passed saving a life or trying to help someone. I was behind the White House once. I was in Washington, D.C., and I was there's some rough neighborhoods in Washington, D.C., up towards Baltimore. And so I just parked the rental car, and there were a bunch of people in a playground having a pickup game of basketball. I was the only white guy on the court, and I'm no good, but I stopped and said, hey, can I play? And they let me play, and we had an incredible evening that night, and they invited me back to one of their houses, and we were able to have discussions, and I know there were some lives that were touched. And again, I know that makes me strange and unique and odd, but people need us. Yeah. And especially at this time of COVID, people crave connection and love. And so I'm just going to say our challenge is, I know you have to social distance and all that, but let's make love the most contagious thing we spread this holiday season.
It's so needed.
Because love is the answer.
It is. And as people isolate, you talk about our senior community. They're already locked in their homes. Nobody's visiting. They're feeling that. And at some small point, we're feeling what they feel on a normal basis. And
they're dying alone.
Yeah.
I live right by a senior care facility, so the back of it is on the street as I get into my house. And every day I leave and come home, there's people lined up at the windows, those back windows, to talk to those people through the screen. And they're 6-8 feet back, and you can see their loved one on the other side of the glass, or they're talking on the phone now that it's cold or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is a tragedy.
Oh, it is. And
we don't need to get into the politics of all that, but the bottom line is we've got to be connected.
And, and that's the one thing that, as a foundation, we struggled with the most this year. Here, people are in a place where they're needing us the most, and we don't have the ability to pull it off. And so we've canceled our support group that was held at the hospital because they're not letting you in the hospital. Yeah. We switched it to Zoom, and it doesn't get as many people. And
Zoom. We're all zoomed out.
It's just such a tough deal. And so that's why meeting you has been such a blessing to be able to do this broadcast that literally has reached thousands of people.
I know it's what's so cool about it is that night, I think we had like 3,000 views if you look at all the shares.
Yeah.
And then I put it as my podcast this week, and I know Nathan Osmond did, and you will as well, and there's probably some opportunities we can rebroadcast that locally, that we're going to do some great things. And if you haven't contributed yet to Life's Worth Living Foundation, jump on your Venmo at Life's Worth Living and make a donation to this great foundation. Well,
I sure appreciate it. And, it's interesting to me that if you're watching, like you've talked about, watching for those opportunities, people are put in your path. And they're put in your path for a reason.
With neon signs on sometimes.
That's true.
I mean, they slap you upside the head. And how many times do we just ignore it?
And, it's crazy because that night we're doing that broadcast, and I said it at the end, my kids have teased me because I was in tears at the end. But
he has a heart. That's good to see. Men do that, by the way.
The amazing thing to me was at the end of the night, I'm looking around that room thinking, these are all our friends that were willing to come and do this. Just to make a difference.
Well, there was only 9 of them, and they all stayed 6 feet apart.
Well, true. And that was what I felt bad about. Here we got this board of directors, and I couldn't bring any of them down because, we couldn't put them in the studio because of the limits.
Because the governor would have the stormtroopers.
And so they're watching it stream online and everything. But I thought, man, when this finally passes, how cool will that be to fill up that studio with everybody? Let everybody feel what we were.
No, we're going to do it. We'll do it again. And there's a church, K2 Church in the old 49th Street Galleria. They can seat 1,100 there. Wow. We'll do it somewhere like that.
That'd be really cool.
We'll do it again, and we'll do it somewhere really like that where we've got.
Well, I did really feel blessed. I mean, I want to thank you for everything you've done for us. I mean, we couldn't have done it without you and all the amazing people that came that night. I felt really humbled standing on that stage thinking about all you amazing people that you were willing to help this cause. And I feel really blessed by each and every one of you that came. But especially you, I mean, you were just right on the bandwagon to come and help us.
Certainly my pleasure.
I mean, thank
you. And
it
was, and I appreciate you saying that, and you're more than welcome. It's my pleasure to serve. But it wasn't about me. It was about your foundation. But there was a spirit, and I don't know what people's religious beliefs are, and I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about spiritual here. At that moment at the end,
yeah, there was
a feeling. There was a spirit of love and goodness. And I don't know if you sense that in the broadcast. I think you really do at the end when everybody's on stage together. But those opportunities are right out there for us every single day if we'll embrace them. And that's why I just also want to challenge us that we don't have to have random acts of service. They're not random if we do them every day. They're not random if we're always looking for the opportunity.
True.
They don't need to be random acts of service. They can be regular daily acts of service. So throw an extra blanket in your trunk, have some water, have some food, have a few extra bucks in your wallet. And again, if somebody takes advantage of you, let God work that out with them.
Exactly.
I'm not going to judge.
It's the truth. And there are so many that are in need, especially this time of year. Things are hard. We've been blessed that, work for us has continued and things like that, outside the foundation. But there are those that are without work, trying to figure out how they're going to support the family at Christmas. And so definitely, I mean, it's not for us to judge.
No.
If you have the ability to do.
And it can be the smallest of things. You think, well, I don't have $100 to send into Life's Worth Living Foundation. I'm amazed what you can do. And I have a friend, Brandy Vega of the Good Deed Revolution. She calls it her $10 challenge. Take $10, go to a dollar store or go to a grocery store, buy $10 worth of something, and go make a difference worth of $10 worth of stuff. Yeah. It doesn't cost hundreds or thousands of dollars to change lives. You can do it with a freaking Happy Meal.
It's true.
Well,
or a dollar burger or something.
And even with that broadcast the other night, we had $5 donations come in. We had a $7.50.
Yeah, I remember that.
A $10 donation. Those made a difference because there were a lot of them.
But you know what's relative to that too? Because we read out the names of some of those people, and I think we know who some of those people are. 5 or 10 or 20 or $50 to those people
It was a big deal.
is like somebody else. Oh, I'll just write a check for $1,000 because this doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But $5 or $20 to some of those people, that's a stretch.
Oh, yeah.
That's a sacrifice. So that's why I say give until it hurts.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't hurt and it's not a sacrifice, that's not the greatest gift. Because if it's just easy and convenient, then was it really a sacrifice? Was it a gift from the heart? You know, I say it this way as the big guy, a song is not a song until you sing it. A bell's not a bell until you ring it. Love isn't put in your heart to stay. Love's not love until you give it away. That's when love is a verb.
It is.
It's an action verb, and we need more of it in the world today.
We absolutely do. And, you know, and there's so many people out there. We were talking about that craving. We crave for people to see us, to notice what we're going through. It doesn't mean that you have to, and I was going to say this earlier on, and it just came back to me, but so many times I think human nature is somebody's got a problem, let's fix it. We don't need to fix the problem. Nobody needed to fix the problem for you. You needed Steve to sit down and walk the path with you while you figured it out. There was no needing for somebody to come in and magically fix everything for you. It's walking the path with somebody, allowing them to be on their journey and to support and love and connect with them.
That's why I believe 90, I used to say 90%, now it's probably going to be 95 or 99% of it is just showing up for people.
It's true.
It is.
Just showing up. I had a friend who attempted suicide, and she just really couldn't talk about it or anything. And it was months later, she said, the difference was you showed up. You just showed up. You came to my house and you just showed up. It wasn't like I showed up with cash or food or anything. It was just, I'm here to listen.
Well, you know, and Seth Adam Smith, who came in to be part of that broadcast from Phoenix, we had him at an event in February, and I'll get emotional telling it, but maybe I'll make Tracy tell it. Tell the story about his mother and what she did for him.
His mother slept on, I can't remember how many weeks that she slept on his first, maybe it was, I don't know, but I met his mom, and she was the sweetest lady ever, but when he came home from his attempt, she slept on his floor, and it meant the world to him that his mom took that time sleeping on the floor of his room, making sure he was okay every night. So if he needed something in the middle of the night, Mom was on the floor, and she was there for him, and it was so touching. As being a parent, I would do the same thing, but it meant everything to him. Him telling the story, you could tell how much that meant to him, that his mother was willing to sleep on the hard floor for him for so many weeks to make sure he was okay. Or the fact that his brother just came and sat on the couch with him after his attempt, and they just watched movies. That wasn't money. It was time and just being there with that person.
It
and
wasn't
loving
fixing
him.
the problem.
No, because you don't want to be alone, because you're feeling lonely and hopeless. So just don't let those people be alone. And I know when I called my mom when I was in the hospital after my attempt, she was just heartbroken because she was ill and couldn't come see me. And just we weren't able to even connect before she passed away. And I know she wanted to be. And we just need to be there. My first experience with suicide, I think I was 3 or 4 years old. And I'd been put to bed. And I was growing up right there in White Harlem, in the middle of the hood in Midvale. And I still remember I was awakened to all this noise and commotion. I remember the red and blue lights were flashing in my bedroom. And so I scurried to the door to my bedroom and opened it up. And there was some volunteer firemen over the top of my mom laying there in the middle of the floor of the hall. And they were just shouting, "Wake up, Delpha, wake up." And that was the first time I remembered that she had attempted suicide. She had attempted an overdose that night, and many times throughout my life. And so I just wanted to make sure that my kids knew what was going on. And we've had some discussions because, if you grow up in a shallow gene pool, my kids have a great mom and a crazy dad, so they need to know that at least their good gene pool's, tainted a little bit with whatever my family has. And it's been good to be able to discuss, though, that when you have fits of depression or you feel down, that it's not just you, right? It's not your mind's not taking over, that you can go into the surf of those feelings and you can ride it, but you don't let them own you. I remember when I was living in Chicago and I would have terrible panic attacks, and I would just reach out to my daughter, and if I could just reach out to my daughter and say hello, and she would just say, "Dad, breathe." She would just be there on the other end of the line for maybe 5 minutes, and then I would disconnect and be just fine, and she could help me just go through that surf. And it was just a little period of my life where I needed that help with my panic attacks, and just be there for people. Just be there for people.
That was a great way to put it. Absolutely.
Because we've all been in the surf.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And those waves compound on you and you lose control and whatever. But if you're fighting it, that's when it slams you and hurts you. But you got to be willing to go into it, almost relax in it, be in the moment, come out of it. Don't fight it, but don't let it conquer you either.
Yeah.
That's 100% true. Well, man, I can't thank you enough for driving out here and hanging out.
I forgot how far it was to Tooele.
Well, remember,
it's been a while. I was thinking I was going to take a flight this morning or something, but there weren't enough flights to Tooele.
Well, let me remind you what my buddy Russ Stedman says.
What does Russ Stedman say?
It's 300 miles out here, but once you're here, it's only 30 back.
That's right. Go to Stedman's.
We'll give a plug for Stedman's out here.
We didn't mean to, but yeah, if you're buying a motorcycle or ATV, come to Tooele to Stedman's.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's the best place.
TV really works.
See, exactly. And so,
no, Tooele is a great community.
We love it out here.
Great experiences in Tooele.
And people don't realize it. 7th fastest growing county in North America.
One thing I really
second year in a row.
Being part of this community that I didn't have growing up in Salt Lake was that people are so willing out here to give. When there's something that a fundraiser or things that need to be done, people just come and they just do it. And people really have are connected out here and are
there's
really
still a great sense of community here, isn't there?
There really is.
It's my favorite part is being in a town that's still small enough that when you go to the store, you see people you know. You know what I mean? We're at Walmart, at the grocery store, at the gas station. We don't go anywhere that we don't see somebody that we know and connect with. And so that's, to me, the greatest thing about living out here.
That's awesome. So if you're moving from California to Utah, look to Tooele County, but don't California our Utah.
Yeah, exactly. That is the truth.
You're welcome in Tooele.
I'm like, where's Coz going with this California thing?
Yeah, you're welcome here. You're welcome here.
Well, we love you guys. Thanks for coming back every week and watching this podcast, listening to it, and being a part of what we do. Like Coz said, check yours out. Tell them where they can find your podcast.
So it's the Coz Green audio experience, found on all your podcast platforms, the Coz Green audio experience. And then also you can find videos and interviews and the things that I do at coz.tv. So .tv is like .com, and that'll take you to all of our on-demand programming of the interviews and shows that we do on a weekly basis.
And like I said, if you're running a nonprofit or even a business that needs to advertise, reach out to Coz, because he has got the connections in the studio, everything that you need to pull off what you did for us the other night. And it was amazing. We didn't give him much time to pull it off, and it was without a hitch. I mean,
imagine what we would have done with a little notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have a couple of weeks.
We had a couple, but that was enough time.
Coz, I'm a man. So I know Christmas is coming up, and I'm going to start Christmas shopping here any minute.
On the 24th.
Yeah, on the 24th. So, I mean, that's how I roll. But you pulled it off.
But all we needed was that week, so it was great.
I'm sitting in there, and I'm watching you. And you weren't even stressed as this live broadcast is. You're chuckling at some of the comments that are being made, and you pulled it off without a hitch. And I just watching your body language that night made me relax, and I just got to sit and enjoy it. And I was like, this is really cool.
It's fun.
And so if you're listening to this and you're in the suicide prevention same thing that we're doing somewhere else, it doesn't matter where they're at, you can help them out.
We help them anywhere in the world. That's the thing about virtual now. So
and
let's work together.
While COVID's going on, I've never been one of the guys that want to, keep all my friends and things so nobody else takes an idea. You know what? This helped us out tremendously. We raised a lot of money the other night, and we wouldn't have done it without your help.
I was just here to help. It was all about your great foundation, the great things that you do, and the lives that you change, and the lives we're all trying to save together. So we're all in this together. It's not about me. It's about us collectively.
I think they said something about the end. I think it was Nathan Osmond that said it at the end, something about not getting,
His grandma.
what was it about? I know it was about not getting credit, that you don't.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan had the same quote on the wall of the Oval Office. He said, "It's amazing how much you can get done if you don't care who gets credit."
That's what it was.
And it absolutely is, right? It's not about anyone getting credit. It's about funding the cause.
Yeah.
CAUSE.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, guys, thanks so much. Now, let me just throw this in here. I throw it at the end of every podcast. If you're in a spot where you're having those thoughts that are scaring you, and maybe you feel like the world would be better off without you in it, that's a lie. It's not true. It could be medication, like you were dealing with, medication that just wasn't dialed in. It could be a number of things. My dad used to tell me every time I'd go through something rough as a teenager, he'd say, "Sleep on it. It'll look better tomorrow," and it always did. So my advice is, if you don't have somebody that you can have that conversation with, a safe person that you feel like you can lay it all out there in front of and let them know, reach out, call the hotline. That number is 1-800-273-8255. They're available 365 days a year, 24/7. They will take your call. They'll walk that path with you, make sure that you're okay. So please reach out to somebody. Don't do it alone, because when you do it alone, as well as
You can't.
as I
You don't do it alone.
You don't do it, and it's going to delay getting better, feeling better. You break your arm, you go to the emergency room. When we go through struggles with mental health issues, we just need to reach out. We need to not try to handle it alone.
And you would get help, right? Somebody once reminded me when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and later learned that maybe there was some bipolar and some things throughout my whole life, and that was liberating to realize, okay, it wasn't all just me, it was something I had, was you would get it treated if it were diabetes or cancer.
Yep.
So
There's no
why
shame.
wouldn't you just get help?
There's no shame in it, and that's what we want people to understand. You know what? In your lifetime, you're going to go through 6 bouts of real depression. I mean, that's a stat that's out there.
Oh, great. You mean I
And
have
you know
5
what?
more?
Yeah, so you got that to look forward to. We'll have 5 more episodes. We'll have Coz back. But really, reach out. Find that someone or call the hotline. And again, as we close up tonight, we just want to give a shout out to our sponsors. They've been willing to put their name with ours the entire time we've been doing this.
That's awesome.
GTM Builders, man, what a great partner in this, allowing us to record in their beautiful model home. Gives us that place where we can have that quiet. Don't need to worry about the phone ringing, the doorbell ringing.
And it's always clean.
Dogs barking.
That's true.
Yeah, we've
It's
got
always clean. I mean,
housekeepers.
look, somebody raked this new carpet. It looks beautiful. That wouldn't happen at my house.
It's amazing. In fact, I think we're going to hang out later. We'll just hang out here. We'll order a pizza, hang out in the model home. But GTM Builders, they've got 4 model homes in the valley. Check one of them out if you're thinking about building. This is a beautiful home. They're a great builder. And if you're thinking about buying or selling, reach out to A. Warner Homes Real Estate, 801-867-5078. And if you're coming out from outside the valley, come spend the night out here. Stay at Comfort Inn and Suites. Give them a call at 801-250-3600.
I like that.
And again, if you've got ideas and things that you'd like to run past us to have a subject brought up on this podcast, reach out to me at lifesworthlivingfoundation@gmail.com. And again, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Thanks, Coz, for
Yes,
coming.
thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. My pleasure. And don't be afraid to be that one, right? So if you're going through tough times, reach out. But also if people are reaching out in your world and need help, don't be afraid to help them.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.